knowledge and the wealth for life. Mahogany strong, yeah, we on our lane. Breaking every chain, never stay the same. It's a new day, yeah, we take control. Build it up, exit down, that's the goal. Yeah.
Everyone, welcome. We're at another episode of the Mahogany Circle Podcast. And today's lesson might be one of the most important conversations we've had for entrepreneurs, executives, nonprofit leaders, pastors, and anyone who's trying to build something bigger than themselves. And today we're talking about the law of the lock. Now, here's the deal. Most people think talent is what limits success. It's not. Other people think that it takes money to make money, so they think money's a limitation. It's not. The real limitation is leadership. So that's how we're going to go into Law of the Lock today. And of course, you all know my fabulous co-host, Dr. Tabatha. Dr. Tabatha, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much, Dr. Dan. I'm super excited to talk about this on today because so many people believe if they just worked harder, if they just learned more, or if they became more skilled, everything would change. And rightfully so, right? Some of those things do work, however, but eventually every successful person discovers a ceiling in trying to do that, right? And that ceiling is always themselves. And so whenever they, hit that brick wall and come to the edge of themselves, something has to happen, right, Dr. Dan?
Absolutely. So today we're going to discuss why leadership, first of all, is the ultimate multiplier, why businesses stop growing, why delegation is difficult. We'll talk a little bit about, maybe a business that some of you might have heard about called McDonald's, and a difference between building a job and building an organization. So let's think of this in analogies. Being Gen X, Dr. Tabatha's Gen X, we like to talk in analogies. And I think that comes from like years of being latchkey kids and watching music videos and cartoons and things like that. The best way to always remember something is with some sort of analogy. So imagine you're at your stove and you have a pot of boiling water. Now imagine you place a lid on that pot of boiling water. The water wants to rise, the heat is there, the pressure's there, but the lid is what determines how far it can go. Now leadership works the exact same way. Your organization can only grow to the level of its leadership. And so this is why, Dr. Tabatha, sometimes the limitation is not always the big issue.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I really can see where we can benefit from this discussion today, right? The limitation isn't always the market. Sometimes the limitation is the leader. And that can be tough to hear, right? Like, you mean to tell me it's me that is having the challenge? And when you discover that, though, that is the main time where you need to lean in and do something differently. Would you agree?
I would definitely agree with that. And sometimes one of the things that happens is the entrepreneur, they think it's a marketing problem or a sales problem or funding problem, but it's the leadership. So let's talk about one of the most used case studies in history, and that's McDonald's. Now, most people, if you've been to McDonald's, if you've seen the Founder movie, if you've done all those different things, they think McDonald's became successful because they sold hamburgers and fries. Now, that's not actually the real story. Now, thousands of restaurants sell burgers. Yeah, McDonald's did not invent the hamburger. What made McDonald's different wasn't the product, it was the system. And Ray Kroc, who is the person who, if you've seen the movie Founder, is played by Michael Keaton. When he bought McDonald's from the McDonald's brothers, he never had to actually invent a hamburger. He didn't invent French fries. He perfected a leadership system that could be duplicated 1,000 of times. And this is one of the things that Dr. Tabatha and I always talk about with people in the Mahogany Circle, right?
That's right. And to me, that's so fascinating because people remember the food. I like to say that there's little kids out there that can't even say McDonald's, but they can recognize those golden arches and instantly, they're ready to go in and get some French fries and some nuggets, right? Mm-hmm. However, The real product was consistency around the McDonald's, their model that they put together. I quite often like to talk about the McDonald's model and how they did so many things right, right? And when we look at their business model, there's a lot of things that when we look at consistency, definitely gets A pluses in my book.
Absolutely, absolutely. And every McDonald's restaurant operates similarly. So when you write that check for $1 million to McDonald's, you're not just writing a check for the ingredients to make super crispy fries. What you're doing is you're paying for training, you're paying for operations, you're paying for management, you're paying for customer experience, and the business could expand because leadership had become transferable. So McDonald's wasn't scaling hamburgers, they're scaling leaders and they're scaling systems. And Dr. Tabatha, I think that we can both agree that this is something that entrepreneurs need to think much more about.
Absolutely. That's the one thing that I stress a lot of times is for us to make sure that we have a system that anybody can pick up the manual and they can follow it, right? And a lot of times, as being a small business owner, that is not one of the things that we really concentrate on. We look at all the other things, our branding, our marketing, our visibility, all of those things. But if that business is not set up to be transferable, then potentially there's a problem, right? But then that's also a very incredible lesson for entrepreneurs is that if everything depends on you personally, you've got a job and not an organization.
Absolutely. If you're the solution to every problem, you're also the ceiling of every problem. And this is one of the things that we find so much in Mahogany Circle is why these entrepreneurs struggle to lead. And that's really because many founders secretly struggle with delegation, right? It's like most people think that they're delegating, but they're not. As I like to say, most people fall into this strange chasm where they're either in abdication, meaning that if we're working with someone, we hand it off to them and say, hey, listen, I want to do this. You do this. And then you check in with them a month later and you're like, why wasn't it done? It's like, oh, I couldn't figure it out on day 2, but I didn't want to tell you because I wanted to get paid. Or they struggle with domination, meaning I hand it to you, but then I'm over your shoulder every 5 seconds trying to see if you're doing it correctly. Right. And so it's not usually delegation is not being able to find good people, but because they believe no one can do it as well as they can, they have a hard time handing that off to someone else to do.
Yeah. And ironically, that belief right there, that one thing prevents growth in their business. And we have the opportunity to see it all the time is that nobody can do it as good as me. And maybe rightfully so. However, be open enough to have some flexibility in there so that you can duplicate yourself and allow that delegation to help you in the business, because it definitely helps you more than hurt you.
100%. Perfection is often disguised control, and a lot of leadership requires trust, right? There's a basic law that says that if you're not attaining the goals that you're looking for, typically as a business, it's based on one of two things: lack of discipline or lack of trust.
That's
and when
right.
we talk about delegation, we're really talking about this ability to trust. And in order to do that, you need a number of things. You need to have a specific system of developing the people that you want to. You have to have a specific system for coaching, making sure that there's ongoing coaching. And then probably the most important system that you have to have is a system that emphasizes patience, understanding that in order to get all the great things that we get from working with humans as opposed to AI, such as context, such as experience, such as basic feelings and emotions. The things that go along with that are understanding and patience, and making sure you have patience with people. So your goal is never to create people who work for you. Your goal is to create people who can think without you. So here's an interesting distinction between someone who's a doer and a leader, right? Doers, they solve today's problems. Leaders develop people who solve tomorrow's problems. So one of the things that we often see now with organizations and small business owners is this reliance on AI to do all the things, right? Write the email, do the HR, do all these different things. And that's fine. But the reason why AI will never be fully replaced by humans is because leaders actually develop people with patience. And they try to get those people to figure out beforehand what the problem of tomorrow will be based on understanding, based on the repetition, and based on the patience. And so that is something that most businesses and most organizations have to work on, Dr. Tabatha.
Yeah, I agree with you. I recently read something where it was talking about how a lot of massive corporations, the big companies, had laid off hundreds of thousands of people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tens of thousands even. And when they did so, they're now bringing back parts of that workforce because they're now missing the human element to go along with AI. And so I agree with you that AI is a great tool for you to put into your tool set, right? But it's not going to be able to do or provide the level of customer service that gives empathy or has patience or has the ability to help people solve their problems in a way that a human can understand. So I definitely agree with you. And that's a completely different mindset because everybody came on board with, AI and like, oh my gosh, this is going to be the saving grail. Well, it's going to help in a lot of ways. However, we have to be able to give it that human touch on the other side as well.
Exactly. And I think the thing that most people don't understand about AI is even though I can save a number of documents in AI and it can refer back to that document to make decisions, we know that every hour spent developing a leader creates years of multiplied impact as long as they're with your organization. And so that's the real silver bullet that most people are not currently tracking. Most companies, they will do development because they heard that it was good, or they feel as though that the person who they're developing would leave if they don't feel like there's some sort of leadership development. But when reality, hours spent in development are its own investment activity. And so we have to think about it as an investment activity that it creates impact. And we need to think of the fact that every hour spent doing everything yourself on the flip side will guarantee exhaustion because you're working so hard in the business, it's almost impossible to work on the business. Human beings, we are a wonderful and mysterious species. we have a computer in our heads called our brains that is unbelievably powerful, but also unbelievably historic. And the same way, if you have a nice car that you've been driving for a long time, you love the car, you love the engine, everything goes well, you're going to drive the car long enough and it's going to break down. And there's no difference between that and your brain. And the problem is you just don't want to break down at the wrong time.
That's right.
So you have to have that development that gets the next group of brains, that next group of cars going, because at some point in time when your car shuts down, you hope that there's a tow truck nearby. That's your workforce, and you want to make sure you have a choice of tow trucks that are nearby, and they know where to take your car to get fixed.
That's
so
right.
We want to think about that. So leadership multiplication has happened in a number of organizations that we all either think about or use daily, whether that's McDonald's or Disney or Amazon, the military, universities, churches. None of them became influential because one person worked harder. They became influential because leaders developed more leaders, Dr. Tabatha.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that because that's the common denominator, right? Leadership multiplies and it can do so in so many different ways. Talent doesn't, right? Having the ability to sing and I'd be like, okay, I'm about to pass you the mic. Well, that may or may not work because everybody does not have the ability to sing or to carry a note or hear music in a melody, right? So, and it's the same thing with a car. Everybody does not drive their car the same way. So, both of us can get the same car and they could have their own challenges at different points because of the way we drive. So, it definitely does make a difference in how we allow leadership to multiply in so many different ways.
Absolutely. So as we do during our podcast, we want to leave you with a couple questions to evaluate your leadership, and these are hard hitting questions that if you have a bad response to them, it's an area of opportunity. There's no winning and losing here. There's just winning and learning. So question number one is probably the most simple law of the lock question, and it's that if you disappeared for 30 days, would your organization continue to grow? Now, most people think like, if I disappear for 30 days, my organization disappears for 30 days until I come back. Well, this is the point, right? We want to create organizations that do better when you're not there messing up your own system than when you are there. Number two, who am I developing to replace myself? So this is a conscious effort. This is an effort where you identify someone with some talent. They don't have to have all the talent that you have, but they have to have some talent. You know, a really smart guy that I know said, like, if you're a diamond, your job is not to wait till you find other diamonds, but you can get a good ruby here, a good emerald over here. Someone could be a little bit of quartz. Someone could be a little bit of marble, but they are enough that they could replace what you're doing on a daily basis. They may not have your charisma. They may not have your contact list or Rolodex, which I always say showing my age. They may not have any of that stuff, but can they walk into the office at 9 o'clock in the morning and walk out of the office at 5 o'clock at night and do the tasks that you did at a level sufficient enough to make revenue? Number three, am I solving problems or am I creating problem solvers? Once again, something that sounds very similar, but they are completely different. And so that process of solving problems versus creating problem solvers is all about how you go through the process of delegation of authority. One of the basic ways of delegating authority is, first of all, having standard operating procedures that you need, making sure that someone understands what they need to do, checking in on them once a week, not more than that, not less than that, checking in on the results that they've gotten. And you never say you did something wrong. You always say, hey, we either got the results we're looking for, congratulations, keep up the good work, or hey, we didn't get the results we're looking for. How would you change what we were doing to get the results? Force them to evolve to help you. If you knew the right answer, really, then it would have worked.
Right.
But you're trying to create problem solvers. What you created was the answer that worked for you, but you're trying to take you out of the situation. So you want to encourage people to figure out a way to answer the question. And this is why it's so important to have a mission and a vision and a value statement, because they're going to have to answer that question per the mission, the vision, and the values. So am I solving problems or am I creating problem solvers? Number four, am I creating unnecessary dependence? One of the major reasons why people tend to say, I want to go out on entrepreneurship is because I want to be my own boss. That's not why I became an entrepreneur. Because I became an entrepreneur so the business would be the boss. And I would be the business's dependent.
Right.
I want to think of myself as my 17-year-old son who sits up, eats my food, drinks my sodas, puts his feet up, and just has nary a problem. So I don't want to be me. I want to be him.
Right. Right.
And so we do not want to create unnecessary dependence in our standard operating procedure. We want it to work by itself. Number five, think to yourself, what systems only exist inside your head? When you get your McDonald's operating manual, one of the first things it probably will say is, hey, you have your McDonald's, walk in the front door and turn on the light.
Right.
Then turn on the fryer. Then get a mop.
Right.
Now, most of us think like, dude, like if I spend $1 million on a franchise, I'm going to do all that stuff. That's not the point.
Right.
The point is McDonald's wants you to do it in that order
Mm-hmm.
every single time, because then you'll train someone to do it in that order every single time.
Agree.
And 99% of entrepreneurs, not all their systems are written down. The systems are in
Mm-hmm.
their head. So you want
That's
to write the systems and get them out of your head. Number 6, who have I empowered this month? There needs to be a strict process of empowerment. In a former podcast, we talked about this concept of going from someone who's spending 95 to 100% of your time doing earned income
right.
to going to the millionaire mindset, which is 20% of your revenue comes from earned income, 60% of your revenue comes from other people working for you, and 20% of your revenue comes from your assets making money for you.
That's
So
right.
the only way you can get from that 95 to 100% earned income to 20% of earned income, you have to empower people consistently. It's
Right.
never going to look perfect. It's going to be sloppy. You're going to get mad. The first person that you hire is not going to do it right. I promise you. But you have to have an empowerment plan. It doesn't have to be any more simple than what you do with your own children. Like, each year of life, it's like, okay, man, like now you can wash the dishes. Okay. Now you can trim some shrubbery. Okay. Now I went out, had a few too many like margaritas. You can go ahead and pick that up from the bar. Not that that's ever happened, but that's a stepwise empowerment.
That's right.
First time he picked me up from the bar when he was 8. Although I didn't want him to. But I knew if he can't wash dishes, he's not going to be able to drive a Toyota Highlander.
Not at all.
So you want to have a stepwise empowerment process to make sure people are taking on more and more things on a consistent basis. So eventually you can hand the keys over and say, drive me home.
That's right.
That's what you want to do. And then the last one, number 7, am I building followers or am I building future leaders? Whenever you speak as an entrepreneur, you speak on behalf of the company. There should be no ego in it for you that, hey, I'm the boss. I'm telling you to do whatever. Whenever you talk, imagine your business is talking. That takes the personal side out of it. Now, if your business, this is why, once again, mission, vision, values is important. One of your values is empathy. One of your values is give everyone 3 chances. That's great. Put that as a value statement. And then as you make decisions, that will come out in the value statement.
Mm-hmm.
But that has to be, but you have to speak on behalf of the business, which is really hard for a lot of people to do. That's why billionaires, they have no problem like laying off 15,000 people at the same time, because that's what the business says they have to do,
Right.
not them.
Right.
And so if you want to become a billionaire, that's going to be part of it. You're going to lay off a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to just be a serial lifestyle entrepreneur, and you basically said everyone gets 3 chances, and then at the 3rd chance, like you transition them to doing something else, you can do that. So we want to remember these 7 questions. If I disappeared for 30 days, does the organization grow? Who am I developing to replace myself? Am I solving problems or creating problem solvers? Am I creating unnecessary dependence? What systems only exist in my head? Who have I empowered this month? And finally, am I building followers or am I building future leaders? So Dr. Tabatha, what do you think about those?
Yeah, today's lesson is simple, right? Your organization doesn't need more hustle. It needs more leadership, and that leadership comes from you. There are times as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, the CEO, that you have to practice self-development, right? That you've got to take the time to make sure that you're doing the right things at the right time, to make sure that as you are duplicating yourself, you can then have the confidence, the faith to trust in knowing that that person that's following you is going to do it right because you do it right. And so many times I see that entrepreneurs are fearful of letting somebody else do it because they hadn't been doing it right or they don't know how to do it. So yeah, this is a very powerful lesson on today.
Mm-hmm. So we'll leave everyone with this. The greatest leaders don't become indispensable. They make themselves replaceable. So because when leadership is multiplied, impact is multiplied. It has an exponential effect. So if I'm a leader and I develop leaders, businesses become institutions. And then the movements that we have become legacies, families become dynasties. And you realize that the lock isn't your market or your competition, it's your leadership. Once you learn to unlock people, you unlock possibilities you never imagined. So thank you for joining us on another episode of Mahogany Circle Podcast. We'll see you next time. And as we always say, keep building wealth, purpose, and legacy.
Thanks, you everyone. So much.
Welcome to the Mahogany Circle, where we rise up, make it all come full. From the ground up, yeah, we build it right, turning knowledge into wealth for life. Mahogany strong, yeah, we own our lane, breaking every chain, never stay the same. It's a new day, yeah, we take control, build it up, pass it down, that's the goal. Entrepreneur spirit, we running the game, no shortcuts here, we earning the name. Investing smart, let the money grow, multiple streams, watch the cash flow. Dr. Dan with the plan, map it out clear. Dr. Tabatha, the voice, yeah, you need that here. Game so solid, no room for fear. We talking wealth, that lasts for years. Ownership keys, yeah, we unlock doors. Teach you how to build, then build you more. It's bigger than now, it's deeper than fame. It's family warmth, yeah, that's the aim. We don't chase it, we create it. Every move is elevated. From the vision to the strategy, this is legacy, reality.